This is the SWBC Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Happy Hour. Check this out. Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. Brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by SWBC Mortgage. Financial solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Now, your host, Kevin Turner.
Well, hello, world. It is the Happy Hour brought to you by SWBC Mortgage. I am Kevin KT Turner from the Ben and Skin Show on 105.3 The Fan. We do this every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on the Dallas Cowboys radio network as well as 105.3 The Fan. Basically what we do is we have a good time, we talk Cowboys, and we get a panel. And I've assembled a pretty good panel tonight. Not that I had anything to do with scheduling it, but I feel like I've done a good job tonight. Because I've got Jay Novacek, former Dallas Cowboys tight end here. Hello, Jay. How are you?
So you got like 4 people against me?
No, we're all one big super team.
Okay. I've never been on the side of a reporter once. But, I guess I can sit here all right.
You know what? I could vouch for that, too,
yes,
by the way.
Yes, you can. Mickey and I go back long. I mean, he was like one of the very first individuals that were on the enemy side.
That's right.
Reporters. And we got along good.
From the year he got here, right? 1990?
1990.
Yeah.
As a Plan B free
agency. Back in the day.
And that was
another great move by the Cardinals not to protect Jay Novacek.
And that was the voice of Mickey Spagnola, of course, of DallasCowboys.com. Hello, Mick.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us again tonight. And also we have from DallasCowboys.com, Brian Broaddus.
Hey, KT, guys. How we doing? Good. We're good?
Yeah.
Doing good. I'm enjoying this Wednesday night show.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of
fun.
It
is good. A lot of fun.
And then also Jeff Skin Wade from the Ben and Skin Show.
Why, thank you, Kevin. It's nice to see you for the second time today.
Yes. That's I spend a majority of my life with Skin, it seems.
Yeah, too much time for you.
On a day-to-day basis, so he's here tonight. And I figured, hey, we got a good team together tonight because coming off a Cowboys loss, I think that we could get spirits up for a win on Sunday. So that's what I was kind of aiming for, even though, again, I had nothing to do with the scheduling of this broadcast.
Just claim credit for it.
Let's start out with last week and then get rid of that and just kind of put it to bed, right? Let's start out with that. Kind of a weird game. Jay, when you played, was the environment in New Orleans kind of like it is now and has been over the last 15 years?
You know, probably not like right now, but they had an unbelievable linebacking core back then, and so they liked that team. And you know, it wasn't the Aints; it was back to the Saints. So talking to Daryl Johnston, who always had to go up there and block all those guys, and myself with everybody around me, and having that good of a defense that they had, the one thing that you always had to have in the back of your mind was they were going to hit you. They were going to be right there. You weren't going to be able to catch a ball and turn upfield. You're going to catch a ball and get hit.
I think there's a very interesting thing about this current rendition of the Saints is we've been in our head, we've been conditioned to think it's Drew Brees, and it's an explosive offense. And that defense is really good. And I think there was a little bit of Cowboys fan panic on the streets after a loss where you only put up 10 points and things weren't really moving very well offensively. But that defense deserves a lot of credit for how that game went on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, Jay got here in 90, so he missed the 89 game there. When the Cowboys went in there for the season opener, right?
Yeah, you can't blame me for that.
And if you wanted to see a crowd all riled up, so they're going to open the season against the Cowboys, against this college coach, Jimmy Johnson, and a new owner. And the Cowboys finished the preseason 3-1. They beat Houston by a last-second field goal in the final game, and they went running off the field. And, boy, they had the world conquered, right? And then they met the Saints. They got beat 28-0. I'm not sure they had 100 yards offense.
Kind of sounds familiar.
And the quarterback got the ever-living daylights out of him in his NFL debut, right? And you think them people in New Orleans didn't enjoy that?
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Were they taking the preseason way too seriously back then?
They didn't quite understand what the preseason was back then, yeah.
And there was so much kind of local criticism and angst and all these things about these guys coming in, and you got rid of Tom Landry and all that. So I think Jimmy and Jerry probably felt very defiant about, well, we'll show you guys. Look what we've done in this preseason. And then, man, it was ugly watching in '89.
And I think Jimmy understood what they had at that point.
Yeah.
It was a young team with old guys, and this ain't going to work out too well.
I'll direct this one at you, Broadus. My initial takeaway from Sunday night's game was, hey, this is two playoff caliber teams here just kind of beating the crap out of each other.
Right.
It's kind of what happened. We saw it last year when it was a 13-10 game.
Absolutely.
It was very similar to that.
Yeah, two defensive coaches going at it with Dennis Allen in New Orleans had a great game plan, the way that they were able to play a couple of different coverages and kind of, take Dallas out of their, ability to throw the ball down the field with the cover 2 stuff, and then the clog and cover that they run where they rush 3, drop 8, all those things that kind of play into how you trying to move the football. And, teams in the previous 3 weeks had really not been able to do anything against this Cowboy offense. But the Saints, they did a nice job with their front, the way they were controlling it, and then they matched up their best corner with your best receiver and then dared your other receivers to have to win on the outside. And that was a very difficult task for them to have to do in this game. And, ultimately that's why you don't score a number of points. But on the flip side of that, Chris Richard and Rod Marinelli did a heck of a job, even though it was Teddy Bridgewater playing quarterback, having to deal with Alvin Kamara. I know that Mickey and I were talking on our show, if Alvin Kamara would have got 90 total yards, overall, you would have said, hey, we'll take it, let's move on kind of a thing.
Right.
But, both defenses, and it's happened 2 years really back-to-back where the coordinators had really great plans, well-executed, poor jobs by the offense on their end, executing. I'm including the Saints last year, and then the Cowboys this year.
What's amazing to me is that we're in the information age. And, here's a great example. Dallas Cowboys have their own media team that does an exceptional job. We have 2 of those people on with us here tonight. And the coverage is incredible. And there's more available insight and information than there ever was, especially like when Jay played, for example. There was so much fan misinformation. But a week ago, Thursday night game, I thought that Philadelphia Green Bay game was incredible.
Right.
And the game's over, and I'm looking at Twitter, and people are like, "Oh, those teams are trash." I'm like, "That's 2 of the best 6 teams in the NFC." And then the same reaction after Sunday night. And I think what happens is fans don't realize how, I don't care who the opponent is, how difficult it is to win a football game.
Yeah.
You have to have so many things go right, and your team was a team of really brilliant execution. We talk about the triplets and the line and your connection with Troy, but you guys were so good at executing, which is one of the reasons why you guys did what you did, because it's so hard to execute in football.
But you also have to look at what the score was at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
We weren't blowing people out then.
Right.
Yeah.
We took control then.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it is. Obviously, this last game with the Cowboys, you get 2 fumbles,
Yeah.
kind of back to back.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you just can't do that.
Right.
And the other thing, a lot of teams, when they lose their starting quarterback, they will rally with everyone because they know they have to pick it up.
Sure.
They have to play a good game all the way across the board. Good teams do that, and that's what the Saints did. They're a very good team. We're talking about a
Heck
really
yes.
good team.
Yeah.
And so you look at all these little factors, and you look at the turnovers, and I know that they threw an interception, and they also, it's a sloppy game. They had, how many penalties?
Yeah.
Lots.
Quite a few. Yeah.
They ended up with 9 or 10.
9
Right?
or
The
10.
Saints did. Yeah.
Killer penalties, too.
It was bad, and so you put all that back together, and you say, okay, let's go ahead and have everybody play turnover-free game, minimal penalties. What's the outcome of the game then? And that's how I try to look at games of who's the better team if we don't have those mistakes like that.
Who do you think was the better team after watching that game?
I think last week it was the Saints. I think they were the better team. But that doesn't mean you. The Cowboys just can't get on a losing streak.
Right.
We lost games,
Right.
and we won Super Bowls.
Right.
It's not the worst thing in the world. They need to come back out, get back on a winning streak, win 3 or 4 again, and they're right back on track. Everything's
Right.
gonna, everyone's gonna be saying that's the best team in the NFL right now.
You know, Jay brought up the fumbles, and it wasn't just losing 2 fumbles. It's where they lost them.
Right,
Yeah.
midfield.
You're at midfield.
Yeah.
You're driving. You know, another 10, 15 yards, you got an opportunity to kick a field goal, right? 3 points. You lost by 2. So that was the worst part. It wasn't like they were getting swarmed and they're at the 20-yard line losing fumbles. They're crossing the 50-yard line, and, gosh, those hurt, as bad, I guess, or maybe worse.
Well, because you can drive the ball down. You can have success offensively against a very good defensive team. And when you have that and you lose that opportunity, that crushes you.
We talked about this, KT, on the show because we have Travis Frederick on every Monday. And we were talking about this team never really getting a rhythm. They had that great drive in the third quarter, but that was really the only awesome drive. And the way this season has unfolded, kind of slow starts, but the time where the teams got going in the first 3 games was when you had back-to-back fumbles.
Yeah, you get in the flow of things, and the game flow totally matters. I think also a thing that matters is time of possession. I mean, the Saints had the ball for 36 minutes. The Cowboys had the ball for 24 minutes. Just do the math there.
Yeah.
The Saints had the ball for 60% of the game.
Yeah.
And a 2-point game like that, it kind of makes a big difference. But let's take a quick break.
Oh, yeah.
Let's come back. Let's talk about some of the Cowboys' injury news from today. Talk a little bit about what's going on in the NFL, because I'm interested in what Jay was saying about penalties and a defensive philosophy I want to run by you guys as well. It is the Happy Hour, brought to you by SWBC Mortgage on 105.3 The Fan and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. 3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes.
Back to the SWBC Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Happy Hour.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
Thank you very much, Announcer Man. Appreciate it. This is segment 2 of 4 of the Happy Hour, brought to you by SWBC Mortgage on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, as well live locally on 105.3 The Fan. I'm Kevin KT Turner from the Ben and Skin Show, along with Jay Novacek, former Dallas Cowboy great, Mickey Spagnola and Brian Broaddus of DallasCowboys.com, and Jeff Skinwade of the Ben and Skin Show as well.
Meh.
Yeah, kind of meh. We talked about the loss a little bit of the game. There was something that Jay said that sparked my interest. Do we have a penalty problem in the NFL? Because there were so many flags in that game, and as a guy who sat on the couch and watched about 10 hours straight of football on Sunday,
Get ready to watch a man explode.
Oh, really?
Okay,
Is
I'm
Mickey
excited.
gonna go ham?
Mickey is going to catch on
Okay.
fire in front of our eyes.
I
right
should have
here.
brought my white hat with
Yeah.
the shield down the front.
you know what? I'm going to give Mickey a second to get his words together. So we'll let Jay go first,
There you
and then
go.
Mickey, you're next. Do we have a flag problem in the NFL? Was it that bad when you played?
It was when you got beat. Jimmy always said, one of the things that Jimmy said that always stuck in my mind is it doesn't matter how many great plays you make, it matters how many bad plays you make.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
Cowboys
so
made
true.
more bad plays the other night.
When you make bad plays, I mean, it is very difficult to make up for it. And you have to have a bunch of great plays to make up for one bad play. And so penalties are just like that. And I think the NFL's trying to figure out what in the world they're going to do with some of these plays. Cooper, 2 offensive pass interferences.
They were killer.
No, that I'm a receiver, but those were bad calls.
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, I understand both sides of it because there for a while, a defensive back could not touch a receiver and they were getting thrown penalties, and that was completely wrong.
Sure.
And so they have to figure out how they want this game to be played. And that's one of the things the officials in the NFL have to really come about and say, this is what the offense can get away with, this is what the defense can get away with. Because it's not that what they're going to stop, it's what they're going to allow them to do.
Right.
And so that's the whole thing.
You know, and I think the thing is, if you're going to allow the defensive guy to get his hands on the receiver as they're hand fighting down the field, then I think the offensive guy has the right to get the hands off of him. You know, and that second one was just ridiculous on Cooper. And it was costly, too.
Yeah.
It was 10 yards, right?
Yeah.
Put 10 yards from where they threw the Hail Mary, and they're kicking a field goal.
Sure.
And I think that was a first down, wasn't it?
Would have been
Yeah,
a first
it was,
down.
it was,
and maybe
yeah.
they have time to get in field goal range.
Yeah.
I mean, and so, you know, all he was doing was getting his hands off him, and the guy lost his balance. He didn't push him.
Right. Yeah.
And the guy that throws the flag is behind it. So he can't see what's happening in front. All he sees is the end result. You know, it was sort of like the playoff game with the Rams, and I'm going to get on my soapbox again.
Here we go.
But the Cowboys finally stopped the Rams in that second quarter, right?
Yeah.
And they threw an incompletion. Goff threw the ball to the right, and on the left side, on the line of scrimmage, Byron Jones goes to chuck the guy, and the guy comes up with his hand like this to get it off, and the hand goes up and hits the face mask, and they called hands to the face. The guy was 25 yards downfield. Now, what are you doing? You didn't see that.
I think it's a problem that needs to be discussed with the officials. And they're working on trying to fix their staff of officials and try to help those guys out. You know, so I understand that's a job I couldn't do. I totally understand that. But they need to have a quality of the product discussion. It's not entertaining if you're watching football and it's Sunday night and it's the only game people have eyes on. And there are flags just every 2 minutes. You're getting a flag.
Well,
It's not just Sunday night.
No,
You
it's all day
said
long.
it. You watched it all day long, right?
But especially when it's the only game on. It's like, know
Center stage.
that people are watching you, you know?
Well, this is where I agree with Jason Garrett on he just wants uniformity of the calls. If you're going to call, I know, Skin, you're a big basketball guy. As these crews work with each other, you just want the fouls to be called the same way.
Yeah.
I think that's all what the players would like and the coaches would like. If this is going to be pass interference, then make sure it's called the same way. if this is going to be illegal hands to the face, or this is going to be a chop block, or this is going to be defensive hold, make sure it's called the same way by every crew. The problem is when you play in a game and then 1 week, you get Walt Anderson's crew calls it this way, and then you turn around and John Perry's crew the next week, wait a minute, this happened to me last week, and now I think that's the biggest issue.
What are the rules?
What are the rules? And and Mickey and I had this discussion on air the other day, and Mickey's right in a lot of ways about the reviewable plays and what you can do and all that stuff like that. I'm to the point of let the players decide it.
Yes,
I
me
would
too.
rather, and I don't know. I mean, Jay, you might totally disagree with me, but I mean, I'm one of these guys that if it's going both ways, if there's holding both ways, don't call a penalty 2 minutes at the end of the game on a phantom holding or a phantom chop block or something like that. Let the players decide it on the field. Again, Mickey says I say it's anarchy, and he might be right, but I think to me, I would rather get beat by the players than I would the officials.
Well, there's a few things I want to throw out here. Number one, I think we're starting to see this because of review and it's human nature. I'm seeing indecision now. And because they know that they're being critiqued and they know that their work is going to be immediately reviewed, it's human nature to be defensive about that. And a lot of times that leads to indecision.
Right.
Okay, that's something. What you just said about different crews calling different things, this is one of the most profound referee moments I've ever had. This is in the basketball world. Mavs are getting ready to start a series with the Grizz. And the great Hubie Brown, one of the greatest coaches of all time, is calling the series. So me and Ben go down there, and we're standing there. Oh, my God, we're with the great Hubie Brown. Hubie, what's the key to this series? Well, the first thing is who's refereeing the game. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
I spent my first half year in Memphis conditioning these referees on how to call my games.
Yeah.
And if that isn't the biggest sort of revelation about human nature
Sure.
and how you can manipulate people and all these things, but when I went from watching the game from the perspective over here to watching it on a broadcast, it's amazing how much angles change your perspective. Because there's things I see, how do you not see that? And then I see the reverse angle on the camera, I go, oh, I see how he didn't see it. His eyes sort of told him that this is what happened, but he didn't have the angle. This is an imperfect science. And when you get guys inside their own head doing a difficult job, you're going to have all these mistakes. It's just tough.
So, Jay, you had it kind of both ways. Before video review and none. Which did you like better?
I think you have to limit it. You have to limit. If it's a touchdown, it needs to be called a touchdown.
Right.
And that's one of those things that that really helps everybody out. Because now, back then, nobody ever said, well, where was the ball at when he went out of bounds?
Right.
Where was
Right.
the ball at
Right.
when the knee went down?
Right.
And now everybody in the world knows that,
Sure.
hey, that tip of that ball crossed that end zone.
Right.
It's a touchdown. Doesn't
Right.
matter. And everyone knows that.
Right.
So that defined all that immediately when the instant replay came about. Hell, everybody held me. So
I've always said just touchdowns and turnovers, and then we don't need to review other stuff because that opens up a big box. But I kind of equate it to, hey, the world is changing. Like it's kind of like there's a comedian. His name's Brian Simpson, and he's got a bit about a long time ago. When you go to a restaurant and you wanted to leave a bad review, you just said screw it, like you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And now you go online and people are leaving reviews. Oh, they didn't give me a napkin. I asked for napkins too long. It's kind of like
vindictive almost.
Things have changed so much,
Yeah.
and now it's like wait. Everyone in the world is going to get screwed by the refs. Every fan base is going to get screwed by the refs.
Yes, they will.
Let's just accept it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're going to do review, this is my biggest issue. If you're going to do review, then you better be like 100%. That Zeke first down the other night?
Yeah.
Was that a first down?
Okay.
Did that kind of look like it probably shouldn't have been a fumble?
I
understand.
love this. I love two things he said. Number one, I love the idea of only reviewing touchdowns and turnovers.
I agree.
I love that. And then number two, I saw somebody tweet this, and I was like, I'm going to steal it because it's a great idea. If they're reviewing it, it's because you have doubt. So if you have doubt, why wouldn't you review it with a clean slate? This whole idea of conclusive evidence, why does it matter if you're
Exactly.
reviewing it in the first place? What are you seeing? And then lastly, I would be really okay with touchdowns and turnovers if they change the incredibly punitive nature of pass interference. That is the most game-changing call in sports.
Yep.
If you can flip a field by 50 yards, that's a ridiculous penalty. There's got to be something that is not as punitive for that penalty.
Yeah,
because
it's college football, 15 yards.
Yes.
But then again, you'll get guys pulling each other down
They
late
do
in the
that.
game.
Offensive linemen
Yeah.
do that, though,
Yeah.
and then they get 10 yards for it, right?
They'd rather get the 10
No,
yards than
no,
give up
no.
It
the sack.
happens.
Give up
It
the sack,
happens.
yeah.
Pass interference is the most impressive and most demanding, the greatest call ever.
Okay, receiver.
history of
Okay,
sports.
receiver. This is a very biased opinion coming from down there right now.
Especially if Deion Sanders is holding Michael Irvin
Yeah, okay.
in a playoff game up in San Francisco when we should have had an opportunity to
Yes.
go score and win the game and win 4 Super Bowls in a row.
No doubt.
Bam!
No doubt. Case closed. You did it.
All right, that was our soapbox on NFL officiating. We'll get back to the Cowboys in the next segment. Do the Cowboys have an injury problem on their offensive line? We'll get the latest on the Cowboys. Take a look at the Packers. That's next on the Happy Hour, brought to you by SWBC Mortgage on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network and 105.3 The Fan.
Back to the SWBC Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Happy Hour.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
Thank you very much, and thank you to SWBC Mortgage for bringing you the Happy Hour every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, as well as 105.3thefan.com locally. Tonight's panel, aside from myself, I'm KT from the Ben and Skin Show, is Jeff Skinwade, Brian Broaddus, and Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. And a man who not only used to play for the Cowboys, but was also just delivered a very impressive-looking steak here from the Cowboys Club. It's Jay Novacek.
Cowboy ribeye, right?
Cowboy
here.
ribeye.
Right.
I recognize that thing when it pulled up.
I thought it was the tomahawk.
Yeah, it almost looks like a tomahawk with that.
I was going to get the tomahawk.
Oh, that's impressive here.
There may not be enough room on our setup here for a big tomahawk steak, but that looks awesome.
That is nice. Very
That's
nice.
awesome.
You can hurt a man with that thing.
Yep.
Broaddus, I'm going to start with you here. Today we learned that Lyle Collins did not practice because of a back. We know Tyron is not playing this week. Do we have an issue here? My take was, hey, it's just Wednesday. You got plenty of time, but
Yeah, no, I think in talking to some folks in the organization about that, Lyle Collins did come up with the back, like you said, KT, but they're not worried about it.
Oh,
they're,
good.
They're not. I mean, it seems like if you're going to play well, you have to have a back issue on this offensive line. But, with Collins, the report was that he should be okay, and that, that we'll probably see him back tomorrow. And then and then he'll get ready for the game and prepare that way.
KT, you didn't like the idea of Cam Fleming at one tackle and Connor Williams at the other?
I didn't like the idea of just a full-scale switch happening on Wednesday. I was like, you know what? Can we just wait? But
you know
is
what
that the plan? Is that the swing tackle, Connor Williams?
Yeah,
Connor Williams,
he's going to be
yeah.
the swing tackle. And
Yeah.
so my next question was, so if you have to play that way, who's the next tackle up? Because you don't have any more tackles. And it was like, well, Zach Martin can go outside.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Well,
Boy, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like I say, it's good that Collins will be back, and so then if they have to use Connor Williams, but yeah, I mean, Mickey and I were having this discussion on our show today about that, and do you have to give Cam Fleming help because the Packers do have a couple of quality rushers. The law firm of Smith and Smith, so yeah, I think that. But the thing about Cam Fleming is he's made some quality starts. He started in a Super Bowl, so but I think Mickey's right. We've all kind of talked about there's things about him that aren't pretty when you watch him block. There's the technique is a little off. He kind of does things in a flailing manner, but he manages to keep his feet and stay in front of his guy. I don't know how he does it a lot of the time. But, that's kind of what they're, when you're going to battle, they try to protect themselves the best they can with adding a guy that has experience. Now, mind you, it's probably not the most ideal situation, but at least they feel good about that.
We're early here, but do you guys think Connor is more of a tackle than a guard?
I've never seen him play tackle, so
yeah,
I can't
I mean,
answer that.
I can only say I've seen him play tackle at Texas. I know
Right.
KT has when we were doing scouting stuff in the spring. But, he was a left tackle at Texas in the Big 12. I thought did a pretty good job there.
Then he hurt his knee.
And he hurt his knee, and then it kind of slowed him up a little bit. The problem with him is not the athletic ability. It's just, even though he's added bulk, there's still times you see him play, and Jay can address this as well because he played with his knees bent and get under guys and kind of work them. When he gets tall, it's a problem for him. And sometimes you see rushers get under him and leverage him, and it kind of walks him. And, you don't need that on the edge, and especially inside. You don't need those guys to walk you like that, and that's could be a problem for him.
If Cam Fleming has any advantage in this game, he played against Preston Smith last year.
The Redskins.
Against
yeah.
the Redskins.
Wow. Yeah,
that
sure
was
did.
one of his starts.
Yeah. Right.
And there were times it wasn't real pretty.
Not at all.
He was better against the run than he was in pass blocking, and one of the things the Cowboys did was about 75% of the time there was a tight end over there.
Yeah.
And the tight end didn't always help him, but he was there to make sure that the guy didn't go around him to the outside. He had to go inside. Or they had a running back over there, and when the running back went out, he went out so that the guy couldn't rush to the outside. He would, and so he had a little cushion there, right? But there was some pass blocking that.
Who's the best blocking tight end on this team? Who do you guys think?
That's you mean pass blocking?
Yes, yeah,
Staying
okay.
in pass block or run block?
Well,
I'm thinking
I'm
more.
going to tell you right now, if you have to have Jason Witten in there to help out, then you're losing a great receiver.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when we were playing Green Bay and Reggie White was over there.
Absolutely,
with
yeah.
Eric Williams.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that great offensive mind Norv Turner was thinking.
Did you get hump moved?
Did he put you
But
over there?
He put me in to help out Eric Williams.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now that the first 2 times I set up to help pass block with Eric Williams on Reggie White, Eric about knocked me out when he knocked Reggie out. And so I had to get out of the way. I was scared. I mean, I was like, whoa. Eric was amazing when it came to Reggie.
Or he hated playing. Reggie White hated playing him. I
Oh,
was
he
working with the
did.
Packers at the time.
Oh,
we beat
yeah.
San Francisco. We're going to the championship game in Dallas, and everybody's happy. And Reggie White's sitting in his locker looking down, and he was like, "Reg, what's wrong?" He goes, "Eric Williams." He knew.
Yeah, they moved
He
him
hated.
around.
He hated playing Eric Williams more than any other player. And here's a Hall of Fame, unbelievable player. But to the point, instead of maybe the Cowboys can make an adjustment when they take Joe Looney, and they just play with an extra. You put Joe Looney out next to Cam Fleming.
Interesting.
And put 2 offensive linemen to that side. Now, if you were playing somebody that was really just a blowing and going type of guy over there, say you're playing, the guy at the Bears. Say you're playing Khalil Mack. You're playing somebody like that, Von Miller, somebody that you're really worried about them capturing the edge all day. Well, then put a guy over there like a Joe Looney and have him sit on the edge and make him those guys have to fight 2 offensive linemen, not a pass-catching tight end and a tackle.
Would your pass-catching tight end in that scenario be more Jarwin?
Well,
Jarwin needs to play more.
I agree.
In my opinion, I think that Blake Jarwin. I mean, I love Jason Witten. I mean, I was on the staff that brought him here, but I mean, I think that Blake Jarwin gives you a little something down the field, a little bit further down the field.
I don't want to. I look. This guy down here, numbers-wise, is more Witten, but Jarwin has some Novacek-style athletic ability.
No question.
You don't want to do that, man.
Yeah.
You don't want to go that far.
No, I'm all apologies to Blake Jarwin.
The way I did things, nobody wants to do them like me. That was nuts.
You're like a modern tight end back
That
then.
was nuts.
Oh, no.
Down the field athlete.
Here's what they need to do, though. They need to mix it up.
Yeah.
So that rusher does not know what's coming.
Right.
That's all you have to do. You might let Whitnell stay in a couple times.
Sure.
That's no big deal.
Sure.
Back can chip him every now and then.
Sure.
Have it so they don't know what's going on. Anytime, I'm going to tell you right now, I saw DeMarcus Ware in here.
Yeah. Guy looks good too, by the way.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
he look like he can go out and
He's like
play
still
tomorrow?
play. Yeah. Yeah.
I was scared. But anyway,
Look like a Hollywood actor.
you get a defensive player to think, and you beat them.
Yeah.
Because all they're doing, they're 100% of the time they have to react to what's going on. So if you get them to think, it's very difficult. Only the great ones, someone like DeMarcus Ware, he's a great one. He can think and react at the same time. Most of them can't.
Right.
And so you get that situation, you get them to think, what's going to happen? Is the tight end going to set up and get me? Is the back going to come chip me? What is the situation here? And it slows them down just enough that the tackles in this instance can get set up and get their body in position to be a player.
The other thing they did last year when they played Washington, they used a lot of 2 tight ends.
Right.
And they put both of them over there.
Right.
So now the guy doesn't know which one's
no
blocking
clue.
and which one's going out.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Packers. When you watch them play, they flip their outside linebackers. Yeah. So it's not like you're having one guy rush on the right side or left side. So you have to determine who, if Preston Smith is killing you in the game, okay, maybe you think about that, or vice versa. I have a feeling they're going to go after Cam Fleming. I really, really do. I think they're going to whoever they determine their best rusher is of the 2 Smiths. I have a feeling that's the side they're going to put him on, and that leads to Jay's point of putting a tight end over there, or chipping him with a back and all that. Then you could get a better bead on what you want to do.
And this is kind of where we go back to the first of the segment, talking about Lyle needing to be healthy.
Right.
Because the thing about the Packers, that they're not as much like the Cowboys, more of a downhill defense. They're more of we're going to try to trick you. We're going to blitz a guy, a secondary
blitz,
guy. We're going to play in dime quite a bit, and we're not going to tackle very well.
Yeah.
And we're going to let you run on us, and we're going to hope to not break. Like, they're going to just try to confuse you. And if you have 2 starters missing on the offensive line instead of 1, creates a lot of issues. That's why shuffling guys around and moving Connor to right tackle and bringing in Suafilo and whatever happens, that's what makes me nervous. So
That's too many moves.
Give
really
me some
hope-
22 personnel. Give me some 22 personnel.
Oh,
Let's
hey,
do
dude,
this.
If you had a real fullback, that'd be nice.
2 running backs, 2 tight ends. We can do a little bit
Let's
of
go.
that.
Yeah.
And then your wide receiver right now. We'll see. We'll see if Gallup plays. It looks
Oh,
like
I
he probably
think he
will.
I know
will.
he's going to play. I
Which,
think
by the
Mickey
way-
and I will say he plays.
You know, he had his knee scoped for meniscus.
That's a one duck hunt deal, and you're back on the
See there?
Take
95?
95, yeah.
You missed the last game of the season, was
Correct.
that it?
Yeah.
And then they got a bye,
Right.
and then he played in the playoff game. Is
Yeah,
that right?
I practiced the next week, yeah.
What was I
Real
can't
tough
remember.
guy, see?
I told you I went duck hunting. During the game, I was out duck hunting.
You were
so
you were a track and field guy too, right? What was your event?
I did the decathlon.
Yeah.
God,
There you go.
Okay.
you guys realize what a stud athlete this guy is down here?
What all does the decathlon entail? And
You
I
need
should
all
know
10?
that.
You need all 10?
Yeah, it's all 10.
Okay,
So
you start
swim.
out. You start out with 100 meters, right? Then you long jump, throw the shot put, high jump, and end up that day with the 400 meters. And then the second day you come out with 110 meter high hurdles. You throw the javelin,
This is a tight end.
you high jump, throw the discus, and then end up with the 1,500 meters.
Well,
So
that-
they didn't make you, they
what
didn't
an
make your
ender.
pole vault?
What's that?
You didn't have to pole vault?
No.
Yeah, I didn't say that, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, you
Okay.
do pole vault.
Yeah,
You do pole vault.
110 meter high hurdles, you pole vault, throw the javelin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discus.
Then,
Yeah.
I see. I already messed up.
Do
I
we-
don't know.
was
There's
the
10 of 'em.
discus
Boy,
and
that-
shot put maybe
Is it the
interchangeable?
8,000 or
You
something
threw
like
the
that?
shot.
Yeah.
You threw the shot. You threw the disc. You threw the javelin, and then you high jumped, you vaulted, and you long jumped, and then you had the 4. So I don't know where I messed up on the days, but it's
Well,
been
you
a
said
while.
high jump twice, so one
Oh,
of those
did I?
was
Okay,
pole
yeah.
vault.
Boy, and that pole vault's great on the knees, isn't it? It's got to feel awesome.
And then you finished with
Oh, I love the pole vault.
Really?
Yeah, I was a good vaulter.
you finished with the 800. Is that what it was?
1,500.
1,500.
1,500,
Oh,
yeah.
1,500 meters.
so whoever the last man standing, right? By the time you get to the 1,500,
Bruce Jenner.
You know, it was.
Wave the flag.
I don't want to talk about him right now.
And it is the happy hour, brought to you by SWBC Mortgage on 105.3 The Fan and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Coming up next, we'll have segment 4 of 4 with Jay Novacek, Mickey Spagnola, Brian Broaddus, and Jeff Skin Wade. We'll be right back to the happy hour, brought to you by SWBC Mortgage.
Back to the SWBC Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Happy Hour.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
Yes, we are, good sir. I'm Kevin KT Turner from the Ben and Skin Show on 105.3 The Fan. This is the Happy Hour brought to you by SWBC Mortgage, and it's on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, DallasCowboys.com, and also locally on 105.3 The Fan. I'm joined tonight by Jeff Skinwade of the Ben and Skin Show, Brian Broaddus of DallasCowboys.com, Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com, and also Jay Novacek is in the house.
Yeah, who would have thought I would have shown up here?
How'd that steak work
cow.
out for you over there?
The steak is working out exceptionally.
Yes.
You know, I'm thinking when I look at all this food, if they need to sell memberships up here, they just bring people up and feed them.
There we go.
And they'll sign on the dotted line.
Yeah.
And there's a waiting list for these memberships. They're doing well.
But look at KT got us a table. It says reserved.
It says
here.
reserved. I'm confident I had zero to do with that, but I'll take the credit for it, happily.
Atta baby.
Jay, how do you like your steak cooked?
It's done very well, medium rare.
Medium rare, okay. That's my go-to. Medium rare is kind of where I like to have it.
It's a very common
Yes.
order.
Yes. But it's the perfect, it's the sweet spot right
Yeah,
there.
I got the cowboy ribeye.
There we go.
Yeah.
There's good stuff up here in the Cowboy Club. Packers this week, also 3-1. I think everyone's kind of angry at the Packers last week when they failed to put away the Eagles on Thursday Night Football.
You mean like from the 1 yard line a couple times?
Yeah, from the 1 yard
8
line,
times.
like 6 different plays from the 1 yard line. But they do have Aaron Rodgers, and I think any Cowboys fan in recent history has bad Aaron Rodgers memories. I've a guy who grew up with a family who follows the Packers. I've seen a lot of Aaron Rodgers in my time.
And Brett Favre, too.
And Brett Favre, of course, and he got you a Super Bowl ring there, Broaddus.
Sure did.
Although you had something to do with that as well.
Nah.
Is Aaron Rodgers, where would you guys kind of rank him on, the best quarterbacks you've ever seen? I know there's a lot of guys, and you played with one of them in Troy, and Steve Young was great in that era in Montana, but where would you guys kind of rank Aaron Rodgers in history of guys you've seen play?
I think when you're looking at it in history, I mean,
It's hard to know, right?
If
you
you're
go back in time.
If you're in the top 50, you're exceptional.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would say, top 25.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
something else.
I
to
don't
be
mean
in
this
there.
to dismiss the question in any way. I understand it, and especially working in sports talk, I understand it. But to me, this is always about we're splitting hairs of greatness.
Yeah.
And so whenever these conversations come up, my first response is, well, hell, I can win with any of them. If you have, to your point, when you get to the level that Aaron Rodgers is at, and we're going to sit here and we're going to argue about a guy that's won 2 Super Bowls or been to a Super Bowl and all this stuff, when I was growing up, it was all about Joe Montana. And, I grew up a Cowboy fan, so we got Staubach and then we got Aikman and all this. But Joe Montana is kind of the gold standard. And then after Joe Montana, there's a bunch of great quarterbacks in there, and then you're moving to Tom Brady. And so if you played quarterback in either of those eras, you're getting overshadowed because of what those guys did. But to your point, it's like, hey, who's better, Jordan or LeBron? Well, hell, I'm going to win a bunch of championships with either of them.
Right.
When you get, and I think Aaron Rodgers is that level. When we're talking about whatever the greatest quarterbacks are, he belongs in the discussion.
No, absolutely. Yeah, the quarterbacks that played in the salary cap era, because of the way the teams turn over.
point.
I grew up with
Great point.
I grew up with Roger Staubach and watching Joe Montana and those guys play. Terry Bradshaw, those guys. Their team never turned over. Joe Montana had the same offensive line. Harris Barton, Jesse Sapullo, had the same line, had the same receivers, had the same back, and Roger Craig. The salary cap era never affected him in the way he played. His players remained the same.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you get a guy like Brady, whose team rolls over every 30%. Manning's team rolls over every 30%. Aaron Rodgers' team rolls over every 30%. And then you have injury, and they can't replace the guys because they can't afford guys, and the players aren't good enough. I have the utmost respect for the quarterbacks that have played in the salary cap era that have had success. Jay talks about top 25. I would say you'd have to have Aaron Rodgers in the top 5 of all-time quarterbacks, just because, again, he's had to deal with so much turnover. Now, Ted Thompson, the general manager of the Packers, was able to hold some of that together, but they just weren't able to hold it all together. And I just think that those guys, like I said, the utmost respect for the Tom Bradys of the world and those guys that played when their roster is just constantly getting churned.
Aaron Rodgers is so good that I had a feeling of dread, and KT will know we talked about this ad nauseum. I had an immediate feeling of dread when the Cowboys were marching and Jason Garrett called that timeout. I had
I'm thinking
dread.
of which game? I mean,
Well,
it's
I'm sorry, the
three
playoff
times.
game. The playoff game that,
34-31.
Dak led him back, which was incredible for a rookie quarterback, and they're marching, and Jason Garrett called a timeout so everybody could breathe, and when he called that timeout, I had dread. And it was because the other guy is so good.
Yeah.
And if that's how you do, I mean, to me, that's a way to define greatness. It's like, hey, we're not even thinking about what we're trying to do. I'm just worried about whatever's going to happen as
You
soon as
left
that
him
guy
too much time?
Left him too much time.
Yeah.
Just 1 second too many.
Right? Just one. Right?
Yeah.
That's all he needed.
That's all he needed.
And for the guy to hold David Irving from behind.
Yes, there was
Well,
a
how
that
about-
was a bet.
well,
The ref should have thrown the flag
Back
on
on
that
the, now we're right back on the.
Right we
officials.
go, right back there.
How about the
Segment two.
how about the blitz though from Jeff Heath that hits him on the backside and
And he
manages-
doesn't lose the
and
ball.
he holds on to the ball. That right there
forgot
tells you
about that.
all you need to know about toughness of a quarterback, the willingness to win, all those things. He's standing there and Heath blasts him. And most quarterback, that ball's flying, and here comes Orlando Scandrick to pick it up. Game's over for the Dallas Cowboys.
And
You know what I say about that?
Wow.
It's his job to hold on to the ball.
You're damn right it is.
Big a deal. Come on.
right?
And and here's the bottom line on it. The guy last Thursday threw for 404 yards at his age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care who you're playing, right? It's hard to throw for 404 yards against air
Right.
without, screwing up.
And he's not who he used to be. He's had a couple of injuries. But
Yeah,
he's
well,
still
he sure
very-
looked good to me.
He's still very good, and that was his best game of the year.
Go in that locker room and ask those
Oh, my
DBs
gosh.
what they think. And they're sitting there
Absolutely.
and they're rolling their eyes like, are you kidding me? He's running out of the pocket, throwing on the run, and he's throwing darts accurately.
This is where I went when I was thinking about Davante Adams, their number one wide receiver, might not be playing.
Yeah.
And that would be a huge lift for the Cowboys because they don't have, because of the salary cap era, because they chose to spend a lot of money on defense, they don't have a lot of big-time weapons. They've got a couple of
Geronimo
late-round
doesn't do anything for you?
Geronimo Allison's okay.
Valdez Scantling?
Valdez Scantling's a pretty good player, but he's, kind of straight line down the
Big
field
tall
guy.
guys, man.
They got great names.
Jimmy
those
Graham
guys.
is a shell of himself, but you could still throw it up to him and alley-oop it, and he'll
He's
go
still
up and get it.
6'7", right?
He had a big touchdown last Thursday night.
Yes.
The game I thought about the most of the recent Cowboy-Packers battles over the last 5 years was the game that he didn't play in. It was the Matt Flynn game.
Yes.
Oh,
And
they
that
brought
was-
28-3 or something like
And
that.
that's where I don't think this Packers team has that offensive firepower to do that with a backup quarterback, much less do it with Rodgers. I don't think they have the firepower that they had in 2016 or 2014 and the Des Cottet game. I don't think they have that firepower that they had in years past. So that's what I personally think the Cowboys are going to have a pretty – it's not going to be an easy win by any means, but I think the Cowboys are going to get a W. I'm picking them this week. And I know what the Packers have on the defense. They cannot stop the run, and they're going to have to scheme it. They can't do it with personnel and size and talent. They don't have that up front. They're going to have to do it through scheme on defense. So I've got the Cowboys winning on Sunday, and I'm pretty confident about it.
You follow the Packers quite closely, though. What is the one thing that what would be your biggest concern if you're a Packer fan or a Packer player about this game this week for them?
Just stopping the Cowboys' running attack that
You think
on
the Cowboys-
Sunday night didn't, but they have a reputation of being a team that can run and impose their will.
Haven't the Cowboys played a Packer team before that was really bad against the run, or they were number one in the league in the run? I mean, I'm trying to remember back.
Yeah,
There
they
was
were.
some-
They ran all over them.
But they were number one in the league,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
They were number one in the
Yeah.
league, and then Dallas ran all
It
over
was
the
the
them.
Matt
game they
Flynn
ended
game.
up
Yeah,
winning.
yeah.
I think this is
They're
a
like
really
8 yards to carry in that game.
I'm basing some of this. So Michael Lombardi came on the station today, and this is a really big Kellen Moore game to me because he's very early in this, and there's so much talk about what the game plan was against the Saints, and we're all sitting here talking about, well, you can run against the Packers all day. Well, the Packers know this, so there's a lot of, and it's a little bit different when you're at home than when you're at New Orleans in terms of what you can roll out. I
Crowd
think
noise is for real.
that has an impact, but I think this is a really interesting Kellen Moore game in terms of an approach how they're going to go about their business, and if what they're doing doesn't work, what do they adjust to make it work?
This is interesting. You bring up Kellen Moore. So Jay was with the Cowboys when Norv Turner was a first-year offensive coordinator.
Oh, wow.
At what point did you guys get confidence in him that he knew what he was doing? Because you knew the previous offensive coordinator didn't know what he was doing.
Well, you said that, not me.
Okay, and I did.
Shots fired at David Shula.
In training camp.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That soon?
In training camp, we knew Norv knew what he was doing, and but he also had the perfect players put in to instill his offense. And we're talking about the running game and rushing against Green Bay. Yes, they're going to scheme it. They don't want to have this offense just run the ball up and down the field, but they will be successful at stopping it. But when you do it like that, there's always those times when somebody messes up, and it's a big run.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to break them.
Yep. All right. Let's give it up for Jay Novacek, everyone. Jay Novacek's in the house. All right. Brian
Damn
Broaddus.
American hero right there.
Mickey Spagnola.
Are you telling me the hour's up already?
Yeah, I've got a hard out to monitor over
so
here.
fast,
Jeff
man.
Skinwade here, clap it for him.
Oh,
All right.
man,
All
screw
right.
that.
All right.
Whatever.
So thank you very much, guys. Cowboys, Packers, 3:25 on Sunday. And thank you to everyone listening, whether it be the DallasCowboys.com stream, the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, or locally on 105.3 The Fan. This has been the Happy Hour, brought to you by SWBC Mortgage. Yeah.